Yes, we're live, and yes, I'm early, and yes, I'm the first one here, but then I'd almost have to be. Hoping because I got the word out a little bit earlier tonight that I'll be able to actually have a few more people in house, although we did astonishingly well the other night, considering a lot of people didn't get the notice. Had pretty much a full complement, and I had over 1,300 comments for you folks in the peanut gallery. So I gotta tell you, you guys did astoundingly well, considering you had fairly short notice. Hoping to get a few more people in here today too. By the way, um, no set specific genre of topic tonight, folks. I'd kind of like to keep it to the sci-fi horror genre if we could. Um, Movies, TV preferred. I want to talk a little bit more about the features of Creature a little bit later, but for now, I have to welcome a few people into the chat. Jimmy Neutron. Neutron John says hello. Hey, Jimmy, good to see you. And of course, Tom the Hungry Jerk is in. Now, let me guess, Jimmy, you're you have two devices. When the battery one dies, you have to come in on the other. Either way, I'm glad you made it with whichever device you were on tonight. Dave Claroni, you're early tonight, man. Last couple of times you're like, hey, sorry, I'm late. Today you're actually early. You're actually here before the showtime. Dave Claroni's here and he says, Thrash. Dave, so great to see you as always. Um, well, that's three people in. We haven't even started yet. So I'm going to take that as a good omen or a good homage. So again, thinking tonight, want to try to keep it to the sci-fi angle. I'll talk about it if you guys want to talk about, but we haven't had a good retro sci-fi horror conversation in some time, and I know I have a lot of sci-fi buffs in the house. Tom Lemery says hello, Thrash, and everyone. Jimmy Neutron or Neutron John, can I call you Neutron John? Says yes, two devices. Well, I'm glad you made it here on whichever one was available to you. God knows sometimes my phone dies or I'm not getting reception on the other end, yada yada, blah blah blah. We've all been there. Tom says, hey guys. Lance Chaffin says, hiya, Thrash. Lance, so good to see you, man. The Foundation, oh my god, it's what, 3 in the morning, your end? The Foundation says, hey guys, hope you're all well. Sunshine, so glad to have you with us, by the way. Hope you're not up too late or didn't have to get up too early, but so glad you're here. By the way, any of you guys haven't subscribed to the Foundation, please do. He had a great series. They were like little artistic compilations where he would take a topic on a certain type of, usually a phobia, and he would thresh out in a cartoon form, do a one-page cartoon on it. And now he's doing some stuff where he's talking about. He had a great one on evolution and species divergence the other day. You gotta check him out. You gotta check him out. Les Chafin goes on to say, hiya, gang. Keith E is with us. Hey, E to the Keith. I just found out the true meaning of the song Sledgehammer today, so that's another one. I can't listen to it anymore. Am I missing something? All I can tell you about the song Sledgehammer was the most overplayed song of 1985. One couldn't turn on the radio without hearing that song. The foundation says 1 a.m. my end. Well, I'm very proud of you that you were able to stay up that late, young man. Jimmy Neutron says Neutron John is fine. I like it. Okay, Jimmy Neutron, I'll call you Neutron John. I love to break my own rules. It keeps everybody guessing. Tom Lemery says, Hi, Hungry Lands Foundation. A lot of people having the fellowship. That's what this channel's all about. The foundation says, thanks for the shout out, Thrash. Always appreciate it. Well, keep putting out the good content. We appreciate that. Lance Chaven says, don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Um, I can't see anyone here who's not a friend of channel, so I doubt anyone's a new subscriber. But my other brother Daryl is in the house. He says, Bob. Well, if you're the other brother Daryl, that would make me Bob Newhart, or at least Bob Big Heart. A private joke, but I'm sure you guys will figure it out. Daryl Johnson says getting all those likes done. Good, good. Lance Chavin says, anyone remember Space Mutiny? Saw the MST3K version many years ago. If I remember correctly, it was the first attempt of the South African film industry to come up with a science fiction film, possibly their only attempt. I also remember they got all the stock footage from Battlestar Galactica, and the rest I think was filmed in a warehouse. But a confusing, if not energy-filled first attempt. We all got to start somewhere. But yes, I certainly remember it. Tracy Roth Myers is in the house, says, hiya, Bob. Tracy, hi to you too. So glad you could make it. Tom Lemry says, yeah, Thrash, I recently found out about Sledgehammer. Okay, what is Sledgehammer about, other than the fact it was very overplayed? I was more for his more culty songs like Shock the Monkey and that type of thing. But yeah, if we can do so discreetly, maybe I'll do a creepy classic on it. Yes, yes. I'm sorry, Tracy's got me thinking Clockwork Orange. Lance Javen says it had Red Brown and Cameron Mitchell. Yes, Cameron Mitchell as a much older gentleman. He played the sort of Captain Aladama, whatever the Lorne Green character was. He kind of was fit that template. Tom says nobody remembers Zulus in space. No, I guess Zulus. That was an old Marx Brothers. I was playing cards with a group of African natives. Zulus? No, I won. Is that politically correct? Well, we'll work on it. A lot of people having fellowship. I'm going to try like the Dickens to keep up. Remember, over 1,300 comments the other day. 1,300. That's a lot. It's not the record, but that's a lot. Lance Chafin said, or Peacemaker with Robert Davey and Robert Forrester. Peacemaker doesn't ring a bell. Are we talking a made-for-TV sci-fi film? There were actually a lot of made-for-TV sci-fi films, particularly in the 70s and early 80s. A lot of them were pilots that were designed to be like a TV series that weren't picked up. And most of them were The Fugitive with a sci-fi setting. But I'm not familiar with Peacemaker. Please elaborate. Superplex. Hola, patron. Says, I know one thing. If Dave has a live stream, T-Pons will be available. If Dave has a live stream, if he has a live stream, I will be available as a guest host. Oh, I think you meant if Dave's having a live stream tonight. If he was, I would have certainly defaulted to him. Heck, I would have joined it. But yes, I will always be available to do one of Dave's shows. That goes for Pat. That goes for Barry. Danny, if you and I can ever get our IT TI'd together, we'll really have something. Oh, Danny's not even here yet. He will be. He will be. He told me he'd be here. Lance Chafin said, the class of 1999. I've heard of the class of 99. Believe it or not, I've never seen it. But I have heard about it. Everyone keeps saying hi to Dave, and I'm assuming that's Dave Claroni. We have a lot of Dave. Or Superplex is also Dave, now that I think of it. There are a lot of Daves. Superplex has one tomorrow? No, sorry, Superplex. Dave has one tomorrow? I thought he doesn't have one this week. Tomorrow is actually, I'm glad you brought it up, and I'll bring it up again. Retro Nerd Girl is having another live stream, and is Dave going to be a guest on that? But she's doing a live stream, and she's actually having a mask reveal. She's actually going to take down her avatar and show herself in her true visage, and we're all looking forward to that. Gary Carpenter says, hey, everyone, I'm back. So good to have you, Gary. Ziplik says, can't wait for Retro Nerd Girl. Yes, and Zoop, is Dave going to be a guest on that channel tomorrow night? It'd be great if he is, because you remember she was just a guest on his channel not too long ago. Lance Chafin says, class of 1999 had Pam Grier, Malcolm McDowell, and Stacy Keach. Well, that's an incredible cast. But no, sadly, I hadn't seen it. Malcolm McDowell was, of course, in Clockwork Orange, which I was just referring to, and Stacy Keach actually did some pretty good flicks. He was actually the narrator in The Duelists, and of course, Pam Grier was the '70s. Zuplex says, "Hello, Gary. How's the rain? Is it raining and wherever Gary is? I can never remember where you are." Oh, Tom says, "I met Pam Grier several years ago. Very, very cool. She's an amazing woman." Mr. Led says, "Hey, Thrash, I can't keep up with you. What's the topic?" So far, we're going to stick with vintage science fiction, old sci-fi TV shows. I'd say let's keep it to '70s and '80s. If you want to do before that, '50s and '60s is good, but I'm trying to do that band of sort of a lot of people have been talking about that on Facebook and whatnot, that period of experimental science fiction from the '70s and '80s, the made for TV movies, and there were pilots and that type of thing. So we'll keep it to that and then see where it takes us and then move on from there. And I've already jumped, so I'm going to go back to where you were and try to scroll. Wow, you guys have. Oh no, I've actually scrolled too far. I was gonna say, hey, I couldn't be that far back now, could I? Ah, here we are. Zublik says, but California need rain. Yes, it never rains in Southern California. Quiero nieve. I'll just see. Ken Wilkinson says, good evening, Bob. Hey, good evening to you too, Ken, by the way. And I had a Doctor Who question for you. And I wish I could remember it. It's killing me. I said, I have to bring that up to Ken next time I see him. Well, if I think of it, I'll let you know. Bobby Renee, who's now Yellow Heart Renee, says, hi, host. That's me. With the most, particularly me. And your rest of the best fans. Knows how to make an entrance. Sometimes I don't always keep up with your logic, Bobby, but it's always nice having you, and we like having you with us. And thank you. Vintage sci-fi, horror, mostly '70s and '80s today. So far is what we're talking about, TV and movies. Lance Chafin says, class of 1999 about cyborg teachers that kill bad students. Like I said, I've heard of it, never seen it. I've got to check it out one of these days. Mr. Lynn says Pam Grier was super hit. I'm assuming he means super hot. Gary Carpenter says my magazine finally got here. I'm glad someone could remind you. Mr. Lynn says hot. Tom says she still looks good. Yeah, I've seen her in interviews recently, and she certainly does. A lot of people having fellowship. They just reminded me of having a live chat. I love that. I love that when it gives you your own reminder. Like, thank you. I didn't know I was on. Um, uh, you guys are always so nice to each other, having fellowship and whatnot. Tracy Roth Minor says you guys don't get offended, but when there's two may have a person of the same name, I refer to the last name. Or I usually use handles or nicknames too, by the way, but that's a very good point. But no, none of us get offended here. I think there's at least three Bobbies here. You know, this is a true story. Years ago, I worked in a restaurant, and in the back of the house, there were four cooks named Bob. And the manager says, no problem. I'll call you Bobby. I'll call you Bob. I'll call you Rob. Okay. Nope. We all had to go by Bob because that's it. We were all Bobs. Neutron John says, yo, Thrash, I keep giving you the answer, but you keep skipping it. What's up with that? You did? I'm wicked sorry. Oh, there it is. Oh, Embryo was really good. I remember Embryo. Embryo had Barbara Carrera in it. Loved it. Oh, and before that, it was Neutron John. I don't see any answers. I'm not even sure what the question was, but forgive me for skipping you. We're at that point where everyone's sort of popping in, so I'm trying to keep up with the newbies coming in. But if I missed something else, let me know because that that was the last message you sent before the call me Neutron John. He said he likes Neutron John. It's a combination of John Doe and Jimmy Neutron. For those of you who haven't been paying attention to the Peanut Gallery. Zublick says, T-Pons, have you ever watched a Carol Zeman film? Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. I'm not familiar with that filmmaker. Give me a for instance. I might want to check them out. Lance Chafin says, Thrash Class of 1999 is on Tubi TV. I have Tubi. So Tubi or not Tubi? I should check it out. There's so many things I've been trying to watch. I was watching MST3K last night because I want to add that to my features of creatures, but I'll get back to that in a second. Daryl Johnson just jumped off the page because we've just reached the point where you guys are pitching him faster than I can duck them. He says, that is what I do, Tracy. There is Tom and there is Tom L. Yes. There's a lot of people with similar names. Gary Cabra says, Thrasher, you are buffering, and I've already rebooted at least 3 times. Does anyone else notice buffering? I've noticed a skip, but that was way back. Gary, I'm wicked sorry if I'm buffering your end. Let's just see what else we got here. Zublix asks, you still work at the restaurant T-Pons? I do, but we're closed for renovations. That's why I'm able to be here tonight. No work tonight. They've closed for a month. Hopefully just a month. Tracy Rothmeyer says, I like Day of the Triffids. Was just talking about that one, actually. Are you talking about the novel? Are you talking about the 1960 film? Or either one of the 2 made-for-TV miniseries? There's only one I don't like, and I'll let you figure out which one it is. But in fact, I just found Day of the Triffids on audiobook because I've switched to audiobook because I can actually listen to books while I'm actually doing other work. But Tom says, wish Barbara Carrera would do a convention on the West Coast. So does the East Coast, huh? Daily Dan is in the house. Greetings from south of heaven. I think we're all south of heaven. Mr. Lynn says, love Day of the Triffids, Tracy. It's on YouTube. It is. I actually have it on disc myself, actually. Gary Carpenter says, Tracy, I've not seen it. The 1960 film is amazing. In fact, Terry Talks Movies just did a bit about that, actually. The book is also very good. There was a 1980 made-for-TV miniseries, which was very, very good. They brought it back, I want to say, in 2010. I couldn't get into it. They tried to make the Triffids the sort of slick, up-tempo, let's just say it didn't work. They worked better when they were sort of zombie plants, not fast attack plants. Hey, Neutron John, if you're in the house, by the way, please let me know, by the way. I want to make sure that I'm getting your messages. I remember a while back we had a problem with people having trouble posting messages. I checked the settings before we started tonight, but let me know if you're still in the house there, boss. Zublick said, The World of Jules Verne. I haven't seen that one in years. That's a movie they tried to make it look like it was old black and white line drawings, even though it was a contemporary movie in, I want to say, around 1980. But it was pretty slick. Gary Evans says Sherlock Holmes. Which one? There was a bunch of them. Oh, Dilly Den says looks good. Foundation says no buffering my end thrash. By the way, speaking of which, was it me or were we buffering really, really, really bad on Ian's live chat last night? It seemed to me we kept locking up. Also, it seemed like he and I were on a nasty lag time where when one of us would stop to let the other one speak, there was like this really obnoxious pause, like the other one didn't know that it was their turn to chime in. Let me know because I'd like to work on it if I could. A lot of people saying all good here. Good. Oh, there's Jimmy Neutron or Neutron John. Imagine if they made Ernest Goes into Space. I thought they did. Yeah, I'm sorry. I never liked the Ernest movies. I know a lot of people did, But yeah, I never liked them. Sorry. Ozublik says, "Where is the owl? Is he your avatar? He is my spirit guide. I love owls. He's back in the bridge. He sits atop my uh deep storage freeze locker." Les Jiffin says, "Okay, where's Emily at? Good question. I haven't seen Emily tonight. Sometimes she comes in a little bit later. I think sometimes she still thinks it's 8:30 instead of 8, but hopefully she will join us." Uh, Daryl Johnson says, "Bob is showing he's no muggle. Thank you. Thank you." Oh, the foundation is giving a link to his channel. It's the Foundation 148. Giving that to Tom Lemery, but if anyone else would like to use it, I'm sure he'd like the subscribers. Lance Javen says, "Love Emily's sarcasm, don't we all?" Zublik says, "That is a Zima film from the 60s. Okay. I did not know that. I did not know that. Daily Dan says, "Yep, no comment on the show. Eee." Zublik says, tell the truth. The owl is in the fridge because you don't want to be upstaged." No, I like Frozen Owl. Tom Lumley says, "No, I can't find your channel. Odd. Are you talking about the foundation? You know what? You know what? Go into, I can't remember what this one was, but the foundation has left some comments on some of my posts. You can go right in from there, Tom. If I can figure out specifically which ones easily, I'll send you a shout out. Keith E did that with Watch You Mean. Watch You Mean to left some comments on my channel, so I pointed Keith E out to those posts I did, and he found Watch You Mean that way. Mr. Lynn says, "Careful, thrash owls are a death symbol in Native Americans. I think they're a death symbol to everyone. Actually, they're a harbinger of death, but it's a warning of death, not necessarily a warning of your death." The foundation says, "Zupalix, yeah, it's 1 a.m. here, but there's chats. But these chats are always fun, so we're staying up for." Oh, Jimmy Neutron or Neutron John says, "Go to 808 for the answer." 808 for the answer. You know what? You have piqued my curiosity. So I'm going to go back and try to find it while everyone else waits patiently while I scroll through your messages. You have a nice sort of fuchsia character. So, nope, I've gone all the way back to the beginning. I'm thinking maybe that answer didn't send, and you have my apologies. So, you know what? Send the answer again. There you go. Although at this point, I'm not even sure what the question is. But we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. Treadwell Meyer says, "How about the Penguin on the telly?" Yes, it's 8:16, and it's time for the Penguin on your television set to explode. How do you know? It was an inspired guess. Try looking that one up. Gary Carpenter says, "I switched phones." Yeah, a lot of you have two different icons, and so I'll get like messages from you, and it'll be you, but two different colors. So sometimes I have to. That's why sometimes it throws me off. Like it's like you'll just show up and like I thought they were already here, but Zuplik says, "Shows real dedication to the foundation. We appreciate that." Well, I appreciate you guys always have. Oh, and Daily Dan has given a link to the foundation. Thank you, thank you. And Bobby Renee says, Ghost. You mean host? Have you been on other streams this past week? I don't want to miss you. The only it was I did one for Ian last night. Um, that was his SNL live chat. Trey Meyer says, "Owl penguins, LOL." Wow, aquatic owls, that'd be cool. Uh, Bobby Renee says tomorrow, Real Girl reveal. Yes, yes. A retro nerd girl. We were mentioning that earlier. So at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I recommend everyone go to Retro Nerd Girl tomorrow. It's going to be an excellent live chat at 6 p.m. Central. Thank you. Oh, okay. Jimmy Neutron says the song Sledgehammer is about junk. Okay. All right. That time I saw it. Okay. I didn't miss the other one. For some reason, it didn't post. But okay, it's about drugs. I never knew that. I never knew that all these years. Gary Carpenter says, I like owls. My favorite Scooby Doo is Watch Out the Woolava. Woolava? Woolava. Lance Chafin says Savage Dawn with Lance Hendrickson, William Forsythe, Karen Black, and George Kennedy. Amazing cast. Amazing cast. Ziplik says, "What's on the telly? A Penguin Monty Python classic." If anyone got it, I knew you would. Oh, and Daily Dan is giving a link to one of his channels. Superb. Although you should give a link to all your channels; they're all great. Trathos Minor says, "I use my iPad, but typing on it is hit or miss." Yeah, we all have trouble with typing, I'm afraid. Ziplik says, "Yes, Lance. Your namesake Hendrickson is never boring." I love Lance Hendrickson. He was great. He was supposed to be the Terminator, but when they got Arnold Schwarzenegger, it was something of a coup. But they liked Lance Hendrickson so much they kept him and made him a detective in the police station. Keith says, yes, Sledgehammer was about all kinds of sex stuff. Oh, I thought he said it was about junk, it was about drugs. Well, let's just say it was about the decadent lifestyle of rockers at that time. Gary Carpenter says Z, and here I thought he was a knight. Tom Lemley says, yes, Neutron John Sledgehammer is about. Ooh. He's saying it's about Afternoon Delight. So, all right, so we have two people saying amorous activity, and one's saying junk, which I refer to as drugs. So, well, it's about naughty behavior. Keithy says, I will just say to go back to my Sharona, that's clean, right? Bobby Renee says Red Dwarf was fun. I loved the old Red Dwarf TV show. They tried to make that into an American version, and it just failed miserably. I've heard they've recently brought out new seasons of Red Dwarf. But yeah, Red Dwarf was a great series. Carrie Carpenter says, "Dale, the Starland Vocal Band." Yes, they were the ones. Duplex says that singer has a really big opinion of himself. Yes, he certainly does. Jimmy Neutron says, "Oh, it's just jumping off the page. That's why he says I want to be your sledgehammer." Oh, okay, it's all coming together. Gotcha. Tom says I like Red Dwarf. Tom Memory says you buffered. Now good Thrash. It seems to come and go. It's very, very, very strange. Les Chafin says Nightmare at Noon with Wings, Hauser, Bo Hopkins, and Byron James. Byron James is amazing. He died recently. Uh, David May is in the house. Evening from Montreal, Canada. How's it going, eh? Sorry, I couldn't resist. Dave, so nice to have you with us. So far tonight, we're talking about vintage sci-fi TV and film from the 70s and 80s. Particularly TV, but whatever you'd like to talk about, we will interject. Zuplik says, message retracted, and a message retracted to you. Oh, Bobby Renee is calling Thomas Smeghead. Be nice. David May says, you have to come to Canada this year. I've been meaning to since I was a kid. I'm so ashamed of myself I've never gotten there. It's like right there. I could drive there. Let's just see what else we got going on here. The Foundation says never knew that about the American version of Red Dwarf. Maybe it's on YouTube. There's actually an amazing documentary about it because what happened was they brought it over, they made a pilot, the pilot wasn't picked up. So they made another pilot that wasn't picked up. They literally hired the British crew to come over and revamp it, and then I guess they fired them all because they didn't like what they were producing. But there's a great story behind it, and then they talked about that about how um, they kept getting rid of all the black characters. Like, of course, in Red Dwarf, Lister's black, the cat was black, and the main character in the American version was white. The only black character they had was the cat, and then got rid of him. And Danny John Jules is doing this documentary saying, "Yeah, so there's no blacks in the future," and it's a very interesting story. But yes, I believe you can find the pilots on YouTube. They're not very good, and the guy that got to play the main character wasn't great. And well, I'll let you make up your own mind. Keith E says Siri is listening to the other iPad about Jimmy Hopkins, and I am using two iPads tonight, and I understand why. Tracy said iPad is miserable. I have a complaint in with my YouTube C Neutron says. Sounds very frustrating. Gary Cameron says it's probably the weather that's doing this. Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's kind of foggy now, but there's a nasty front moving into New England. That's all they were talking about on the news today. Well, that and that poor woman from Cohasset. Yeah, the one who was working in Washington. They just arrested her estranged husband for, well, they think he killed her. No surprises there. Neutron John says, "Does anybody remember Dead Man Walking?" Yes, haven't seen it in forever. Jiblick says, "Which was your most disappointing sci-fi film?" T-Pawns. Wow. Wow, most disappointing sci-fi film. That's a toughie. Because even like low budget, terrible films can be entertaining. But one that really, really disappointed me. You want me to say it? The Phantom Menace. I waited half my life for that film to come out. And when it did, I was kind of like, huh? You explained the Force. You tried to explain it to me. You ruined it. Ah! La 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 la. I am not listening to Qui-Gon Jinn. La 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 la. So yeah. That film literally, not figuratively, broke my heart. There are other films that I really wanted to like and didn't. But no film really derailed me more, I think, than Phantom Menace. Sorry. John H. is in the house. As a friend of mine got a Space 1999 DVD set from his parents, he found out he didn't like it as much as he did in childhood. I can see that. I can see that. That does happen a lot with these old shows that we loved as children. We go back to revisit, and I'm sure I would still like it, but I don't know if I would love it. I also would have to say, I'm sure some would be far better than others. Some episodes specifically. I certainly like the second season better than the first with Maya. Don't know why. Lynn Chafin says, "R.I.P. Adam Rich." Thank you. I'm glad you read on the record. Adam Rich, very, very sad story. We are sorry to see you go. Tom Lumley says Brian James was in another 48 Hours with Nolte and Murphy. He was the Iceman. He always played good villains, didn't he? That's why it was so odd when he was in The Fifth Element. He played basically a pretty stand-up guy, and it was just jarring. Tom says, "I have a friend we call Jeffrey Neutron. Boy dyslexic." Crazy. Gary Carpenter says, "John H., it's been ages since I saw that show." The Foundation says, "Oh, wow, I always learn something new on these lives." I tried. Excuse me, parched. I didn't have my Santa Sangria here. Non-alcoholic red sangria. It's basically really tart grape juice. Or grape soda, really. Oh, let's just see. Neutron John says original BBC Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Remember, Ian and I did a show about that ages ago. We did a, compare and contrast TV series to the film. Guess which one I liked better. Lance Javen says, I like Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction with Jonathan Frakes. Great show. Great show. Um, there was another show that was similar to that I liked as well that I can't think of. But yeah, I like Fact or Fiction. John X says the most I remember from it was TV promos. They actually used to do promos locally, which is funny because it was a BBC show, and they would do promos from like Providence, Rhode Island, and I'd be like, they came all the way to Providence to do a promo. No, they filmed it in the UK and then shipped them over to here. But yeah. Gary Cameron says Jerry Reed played the Iceman in Smokey and the Bandit. Jerry Reed was great. Remember, she got the gold mine, I got the shaft. And I just jumped again, so I'm going to have to go back and try to pick up where I left off. A lot of people remember Jerry Reed, apparently. I think I'm almost back to where... Oh, yeah, here we are. Superlick says, I never really got Red Dwarf, like the actor better in the Brita's Empire. I don't remember that one. I'll have to check it out. Lance Jiffin says, Gary met Jerry Reed in Branson, Missouri. No kidding. Tom Lemony says, I think Jerry played the... I'm not 100%. All I can think of is Falcon and the Snowman. Tom says Northern California is miserable. New England isn't much better these days. Foundation says Craig Charles used to host a show called Ripley's Believe It or Not. He did? Oh, how could I have not known that? That was always fun to watch when I was a kid. Did you guys get it? Your end? No. What was the guy's name? He was that tight-lipped guy, and he talked like this. He did the one-arm push-ups during the Oscars one year, and I can't think of his name. Believe it or not, and he did Believe It or Not for years. But I never saw the one with Craig Charles. We had his like Robot Wars, where the robot gladiators. We had that. I remember that was years ago. Johnny says, I remember when Jerry Reed played himself on Alice at least twice. Really? I know Alice had a few actors play themselves on her show, but I don't recall Jerry Reed. Lance Chafin says Gary got to sing with Marie Osmond on stage too. You did? That's crazy. Or Gary got to. Whoever got to sing with Marie Osmond, I am green with envy. Used to have a crush on her when I was a kid, and when we went to Vegas, my wife and I, because she loved the Osmonds too. For a mere $300 for the two of us, we could have gone to their Las Vegas farewell show and actually gone backstage and had a chat with them afterwards. And my wife didn't want to spend the money. We'll just catch their next farewell show. Dilly Den says, what ruined it for me? Mommy Jar Jar. Jar Jar Binks. I feel bad for the actor. Apparently, he had a terrible time afterwards. You know, it's that whole "don't hit the player, hit the game" bit. But yeah, that kind of lost it for me. Tom Army says Jerry Reed was the football that Waterboy. Oh, that's right. You're the football coach. Yes, that was Jerry Reed. Very good, very good. I think I buffered for a second. If I did, I apologize. Neutron John says Battlefield Earth was horribly disappointing. It certainly was. It certainly was. But it wasn't part of a franchise that I adored as a child. But yes, it certainly was a disappointment. Foundation says the British Empire was great. I'm going to have to check this British Empire out. Keithy says the Foundation. Oh, before I read this, Keithy, the Foundation, I have to ask you, I'm assuming that your name may have something to do with the Isaac Asimov mega work. If it is, let me know. Apparently, there's a Foundation series, which is, if not available yet, is going to be available really soon. Let me know what your thoughts on that are, please. Moving forward, Keith E says the Foundation. If you see Keith on any instructions posting, send me a note and I will subscribe. I should say, Trash is posting. Um, I'm assuming what he's saying is that what happens is anytime I post on here or Facebook. Oh yeah, and by the way, follow me on Facebook. Keithy is like a hawk, and he sees this and he posts it on his page. So I think what he's trying to say is, if I'm posting, he tries to keep you posted. If I misinterpreted that, Keith, please forgive. Zublik says, Mines was Silent Running, produced by Douglas Turnbull, who did 2001, and it was very boring. I thought the movie itself, it's an adaptation from a short story, and I didn't think it was particularly riveting, but I thought Bruce Dern sort of carried the film. Of course, he had to. It was almost a one-man show. It was him and the robots. Oh, Tom Lemry, Jack Palance. Thank you. Yes, Jack Palance was the one who did Ripley's Believe It or Not. And I read somewhere that tight jawed look he had, he was a bomber pilot during the Second World War and got burned, and they did some early form of plastic surgery, but there was some problem with the tissue in his face. But other people say, no, that's a crock. So I'm not sure if that story is true or not, but I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm going to tell it like it Ti is. And I jumped again, so I'm stalling until I get. Here we go. Mr. Led says trash or anyone remember Earth 2? Yes, yes, and I had just started watching it before they canceled it. So I would have liked to have seen more of it, but I do recall it. Dilly Dan says my brain hurts today. I've been listening to Randall Carlson, the Atlantis guy. Not sure who he is. Sounds interesting, by the way. Is he talking about finding Atlantis? Keith E says, "Oh, I compare and Foundation. If you see Keith or any of Thrash's postings, just tell me, and I'll subscribe." X. Oh, I think now I've got it. Now I've got it. I had the horse before the other horse. Keith E would like to subscribe to the Foundation, but can't find the channel. Much like we went through with Watch. Don't worry, Keith. I will keep you posted, and I will get you a link to the Foundation by hook or other pointy device of some kind. Tom Lemry says Thrash, I never figured out he was the Iceman. He does a great job as Batty. Yes, he does do a great job as Batty. Tom says, Senorita non-alcoholic sangria is big in California. Yeah, I found some at the Dollar General, and it's good. So I wanted something different. Love Dreamer says, Gary met and hugged Marie Osmond. Gary, I'm very jealous. Gary says, Battlefield Earth was terrible movie. I got it mixed up with This Island Earth, which is better than that. This Island Earth is a much better film, by the way. And also, how long does high-grade jet fuel last before it breaks down? The book says, T-Pon's opinion on Disney's 2,000 Leagues. 20,000 Leagues, rather. 20,000 Leagues. That's the original? I like the original. There have been some other adaptations, but I do like the original. My mom took me to the sequel, which isn't very good, but I loved it as a child. I loved anything with submarines in it as a kid. I don't know why I just love submarines. We got here. Dilly Dan says, "Yep, I'm so old. I actually had Jerry Reed albums when I was a kid. I had a 45 of his. The one about the preacher." And the bear, there was another one. Did he do anything like spiders and snakes, or am I thinking of something else? But yeah, I had a couple 45s by him when I was a kid. Uh, Let's see, where are we now? Tom says 20,000 Links is great. It certainly was. Neutron John says, I want to see The Man from Atlantis. Too young to remember it. I actually liked Man from Atlantis. It was sort of Aquaman meets The Fugitive, and I love Victor Bono as the recurring villain. But yeah, it was a fun little show. It just a lot of 70s TV. It just for some reason it just didn't land, and I don't think there's any one answer to that. But yeah, it just didn't land. Oh yeah, well, everybody knew it was Jack Palance. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yes, he is dead. Rest in peace, Mr. Palance. Tracy Rossmeyer says there was a weird movie. I cannot remember the name of it. It was about a little boy, uh, a in a beanie with fingers in a piano. That's called the Five Fingers of Doctor Caligari. I don't know. Five Fingers of Doctor somebody or other, and it's the one live action Dr. Seuss movie ever made. Apparently, Dr. Seuss despised making it. People didn't particularly care for working with him. Hans Conried plays the principal bad guy, and I saw that as a matinee when I was like 7, and no one else ever knew what I was talking about when I used to talk. Oh, did you like that movie with all the other? And they're like, no, no, I never saw it. Used to think it was a fever dream, like I did with Pinocchio from Outer Space. So, but yes, I stumbled upon it once, and I don't know how I even found it. But yeah, it's the Five Fingers of something or other. Dilly Den says, want to see Jerry Reed's best movie? Check out The Survivors with Reed and Robin Williams. I'm in. Oh yeah, Jerry Reed is dead too. Thank you, John Edge. I'd forgotten that. So Blick says, T-Pons, do you consider The Many Faces of Dr. Lowe a science fiction film? The seven faces of Dr. Lowe, and it's more high fantasy because it's a mysticism as opposed to science, which brings people to the alternate places. But you could lump it with sci-fi if you wanted to. Mr. Lynn says Marie is hotter now than she was when she was young. I've seen her recently, and yeah, you could certainly make that case. She certainly hasn't diminished in her beauty at all. Gary Carpenter says, DJ, he's dead, Jim. Keithy says Jack Palance may be the answer if someone hasn't beat me. Yes, we all Jack Palance was the name I couldn't think of, and he is dead. And Jerry Reed. And God, we're really talking about death a lot tonight, aren't we? Lance Javen says the water skiing squirrel. The water skiing squirrel is dead? I didn't know he was sick. Oh, Gary Carpenter says those amazing animals. Tom says I supposedly went to the farewell show of the Doobie Brothers. They came back 5 years later. That's a very good point. And you know what? You know who else said not to feel bad? Dave. Mr. Sundstrom says, "Don't feel bad." Apparently, there was no great need to see their farewell. It was just a farewell tour. It wasn't like anything amazing. Oh, John H says the 5,000 fingers of Dr. T. Okay, so I left out a couple of decimal points, but thank you. But yes, at least we know the song, the film did in fact exist. Um, wow, how did I get this far back again? Oh well, I'm going to catch up if it kills moi. Ooh, and it might just. Ah, here we are. Leather Chafer brings up real people. Oh, Kenneth Wilkinson has to go tonight. Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us. If I think of that Doctor Who question, I promise I'll let you know. I promise. Until then, peace and chicken grease. I'm going to skip down because I'm way behind. A lot of people saying hello or good night. Uh, and we'll just see. Skipping down. A lot of people are going to look up Shannon on YouTube. Jimmy Neutron says, want to get back into the show. Andromeda with Kevin Sorbo. That rings a bell, but I can't place it. Other brother Daryl says 17 watching and 14 likes. Oh, please hit the like button. What he said. Let's change remote control on MTV. Ken Ober was from the New England area. In fact, I believe he was on Martha's Vineyard when he died. Dan says, haven't you been keeping up? They say they found Atlantis. Well, that's what Randall Carlson says. Interesting. I know they found the Bimini Road. Ziplik says, T-Pons, do you believe the black hole by Disney a misfire? It was a misfire because it was totally different than the ones they usually had out the gate, but I like the black hole. Just Tom Lungadrick says Eastbound and Down, best Jerry Reed song. One could say that, yeah. Johnny says Jim Sanford saying Spiders and Snakes. I saw him performing in Branson once, but I did have another 45 by Jerry Reed. Bobby Renee says Patrick Stewart loved Red Dwarf. He certainly did. The funny story: the first time he watched it, he was in America filming Star Trek. He had gone back to the UK when he was done filming. He put the TV on, and Red Dwarf came on, and he saw it. He thought it was a ripoff of Star Trek, and he was actually calling his lawyer so that they could start like copyright infringement proceedings. And then he kept watching it, and he saw that it was a parody. He fell in love with it. But it's a great story by Patrick Stewart. Horseman Hatton says, hello, good evening from UK. Stoke-on-Trent. Oh, that's the area in which he lives. Horseman Hatton, thank you for joining us. We're having a rousing chat on vintage sci-fi television and film from the 70s and 80s. A lot of great stuff came out of the UK. So anything you want to throw into the ring? We've been talking a lot of Red Dwarf, but anything else you want to pitch into the meeting, please do. Neutron John says hitting thumbs up button is free and doesn't hurt anyone. So come on, people, hit the button. A lot of people saying hi to Horse Manhattan. Very, very sporting of you folks to have fellowship. Daily Dan is giving us another link. He's our link master. Please feel free to take part. Oh, the foundation is. I was hoping you'd still be here. Foundation is from the UK too. And let's just see. Horse Manhattan says, can anybody remember a series for kids that was actually quite terrifying called Under the Mountain, early 80s? Under the Mountain? All I can think of is it sounds like part of the Tripods series because it was based on the books, and one of them was the White Mountains or something. I could be way off. That's the only thing I can think of. If you have more details, please give them because it sounds interesting. Let's just see what else we got here. A lot of people saying hello to each other. Oh, and Horseman, please not only like, but feel free to subscribe too. By the way, I'm trying to get monetized. I need at least 1,000, and I'm not above begging to get to it. So, yes, please, please subscribe as well as hit the like. And I jumped again, so I'm going back here so I can. Osbook says Horseman BBC is the best when it comes to television. Yeah, they put out some very quality merchandise. Just skipping down. Hatton says old film called The Manitou. That's a great film. Well, I liked it. I saw it when I was like 12, 13, scared the Bee Gees out of me. Tony Curtis stars in that. I actually went to school with his son. And Mike Anzera, I believe, is the gentleman who plays the mystic who tries to fight this evil entity coming back. But yeah, I thought it was slick when I saw it. So Blick says Sherry Jackson is hot. Well, that came out of left field, but she certainly was. She certainly was. Probably still is. Probably still is. Dilly Den says, LOL, OMG, I seen Kiss on their last tour 10 times in 20 years. Daryl Johnson says, 5,000 K of Dr. T. Hans Connery played Dr. Dr. Terwilliger? Okay, we'll go with that. Gary Carpenter says Linda Carter is still hot. I'm sure she is. Books don't know Deep Rising, and Bob Rennie says no Deep Rising for sank for me. You mean for sank you? Mr. Lynn says Tom, at least one of them won't be coming back. One just died recently. Oh, that's too bad. Horseman Hatton says the devil rides out. Is that the one with Christopher Lee? Is that the one with Christopher Lee with the he's the professor and he's trying to convince his friends not to dabble in black arts, but they do, and then a giant tarantula comes to eat the little girl. I was just talking with somebody. If it's the same film, if it's not, please correct me. I've reached the point in my life where I know so many old films, sometimes I confuse some of the details. But if that's the basic plot of The Devil Rides Out, let me know because it is a great film. Gary Cameron says, loved Hans Conried. Yeah, he was amazing. Lance David says, The Last Starfighter. Johnny says, I think I dislike The Black Hole just for being the first PG Disney movie. Yeah, I think that hurt it quite a bit, actually. Bobby Renee says, I like Stargate, the movie, and The Fifth Element. Stargate was good, but I love The Fifth Element. So The Fifth Element. Jiblik says, didn't like The Black Hole originally, but retrospect, I think, are good things in it. Oh, come on. It has a scene where two robots, one robot is dying and the other one is trying to encourage him to fight for life. And I had a tear in my eye in that scene. So any scene that could bring you to tears with two robots, I think, has something going for it. Renee says Stargate, the TV series, lasted too long. Sadly, a lot of them do. I think I'm almost caught up. I'm just going to scoot down here. If I miss anyone, oh, James dies in the house. Says har har. James died. I'm so glad you're here. Renee says, thought James died. Now, Renee, remember, let's not go too far with our dark humor. All the loves James says, Gary, the death probe. Renee says, my phone is illiterate. Lance Javen says, Dr. Lovelace, Michael Dunn. Yeah, he was great. Foundation says, anyone else having connection issue? I hope not. I don't want to lose any more viewers. Horseman Hatton says, the Foundation, I'm sure it was called Under the Mountain and was put on children's TV. I'll have to do some research because I'm not familiar with that one. Was it a post-apocalyptic show? Because I don't remember the name of it, but there was a BBC sci-fi show. It's about a group of people on a subway, and they go through some time slip or something, and when they come out of the time slip, it's after a post-apocalyptic event. I'm swinging wild in case you hadn't noticed, but I'm intrigued by what you've brought to the table, so keep me posted. Johnny says Hans Conried always played the characters much older than he was. In 1953, he played a professor who said he had been at the school for 25 years, and he was only 35 then. Yeah, he looked older than he was. James Dye says, at least my name isn't Ty. We have a tie, but I'm bumped. Mr. Lance Javen says, Pluto has the Wild Wild West. Johnny says he also played Tony Reynolds' dad on Tony's sitcom, and he was only 2 to 3 years older. Victor Bono played Jim's father in Taxi, and he was only like 8 years older than Christopher Lloyd. Keith E says, I think video's back. I should hope. Was I out for any length of time? Sorry if I was. Zuplix says the problem with the black hole is that it was Star Wars light and it was too Disney before they learned to market Disney films. Yeah, when Disney was trying to break out of the standard Disney style, it didn't really know how to do that. It just figured, well, we're Disney, people will see us automatically because we're Disney. Hatton says, yes, The Devil Rides Out was Christopher Lee, and it was about a cult with the devil worshippers. The main devil was called the Goat of Mendance in the film. The book was written by Dennis Weekly. Okay, so I do have the right film. Yeah, I haven't seen it in years, but I was just talking with somebody about it. That's in my must rewatch. I have a must watch list and a must rewatch, which are films I haven't seen in years and have to see again. Gary Cameron says, never heard of it. Who was it? Was it, oh, was it Dark Corners or was it somebody else? One of the groups that I'm always talking about that does retrospects on horror, I think it was Dark Corners, was talking about it, and it's really good, really good. Daily Dan says one of those channels like MeTV just started showing Wild Wild West from the beginning. I set the DVR about to rewatch the entire series. I have my friend Rick, the one who gave me the box set for Features of Creatures, also gave me the Wild Wild West when he was downsizing. Johnny says Victor Bono was only 8 months older than Christopher Lloyd. Wow, that's an even smaller number than 8 years. Wow. So they were contemporaries, really. The Foundation says genuinely interesting stuff. Yeah, I'm going to check on both of those things because you have me intrigued now. Neutron John says Werewolves on Wheels was zany. How could it not be? Mr. Lynn says Thrash Under the Mountains showed in New Zealand in 1981. Okay. Thank you. I will add that to my research. Gary Carpenter says King Tut on Batman. Victor Bono did play King Tut on Batman. Johnny says I bet Hensey would have made a good Batman villain. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. My other brother Daryl says Pat should be cooking dinner. I'm sure he is. And Hatton says that's the one, Mr. Lynn. Keithy says Dave said he was going to be traveling the whole week and not around. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So he probably won't be on our Retro Jungle show tomorrow. Wild Wild Wild. Johnny says Wild Wild West was on Saturday mornings. Now at 9 a.m. Central replaced Maverick. Wow, good to know. Horseman says, wow, Gary Carpenter, King Tut, Batman, the original series was my favorite. He was great. Didn't Yvonne DiCarlo play, not Cleopatra, but whatever the name of his henchwoman was? Tom says, love the Sinbad movies with Ray Harryhausen special effects. Tom Baker did one of those. Speaking of Tom Baker. Mr. Litt says Pat may be boiling water. They are getting pounded by storms. I know. Oh, I know. Millions of dollars worth of damage. Zublik says so. Dave won't be doing a live stream on Thursday. No, so it'll be all me. Gary Cameron says Hatton. He is also my favorite hero. I assume we're still talking about Victor Buono. Lensman says Gary Egghead by Vincent Price. Another good one. Mr. Lynn says, Tom, I love them because of Jane Seymour. Oh, yeah, she was in the Sinbad movies too, yes. Well, one of them at least. So was Carolyn Monroe. Gary Cabrera says, LC, Tula Bankhead, Black Widow. Why am I having trouble placing that? Well, keep me posted. Johnny says, and John Aston played the Riddler same season. Yeah, two people played the Riddler. John Aston, and the other one was Frank Gorshin. Frank Gorshin. Lance Chavin says, BRB. Well, we'll be right here. We'll be BRH. I'll get there eventually. Horseman says, Gary, I take it you have a vast collection. We all seem to have a vast collection of entertainment. I have 50 horror movies right here, by the way. This has actually been forming the basis of a series I've been doing called Features of Creatures, which are basically just retrospect on old schlocky and generally public domain sci-fi monster movies. Do you want to do another one? Any specifics? In fact, I was even thinking I don't necessarily have to do one from here. I will if you want, but there were a couple of MST3Ks that I thought would really fit the bill. But I did commit to doing more from this package. So you guys let me know which ones you would most likely to see me do. John X says, Tatula, run. Tatula Blankhead was Black Widow on Batman. I'm sure she was. I just can't picture the actress. I haven't seen the old Batman TV series in forever. I don't think I've seen it since I worked in the video store, and that was 20 years ago. Not that I don't love it, it's just never on something when I'm watching it, Horseman says a lot that most on your channel have mentioned were far better than today's film series. I definitely hold that. In fact, I've been doing a lot of, over the last year or two, I've been doing a lot of podcasts and guest hosting on other channels. And a lot of people, they love to do like current sort of action, sci-fi, and horror movies. And I'm always the holdout. I'm always the one who goes back to the old 50s, 60s, and 70s stuff. Well, that's why I think I fit so well in as a nostalgia channel, because for me, it's always the old stuff that is far more entertaining. And if you like the new stuff, hey, you do you. But I like the old stuff for me. And Frank Gorshin was the best. Yes, I agree. Triple X says, how did they fit 50 movies in a DVD? Because they bulk them. Each one has about 10 movies on it. Horseman says, have you got the Dinky original stuff to Gary? I have the original The Stuff. Gary might too. If that's the one you're talking about. If not, I apologize. I'm trying to extrapolate. Tom says, my friend just Marilyn Monroe. I'm jealous. Tracy says, Gorshin gets my vote. Gary Carpenter says, Carolyn Jones. Marsha, Queen of Diamonds. Carolyn Jones, thank you. I think Yvonne DiCarlo did do Batman at one point or another, but Carolyn Jones was the one I was thinking of. Again, over the years, some have blended together. My other brother Daryl says, Aliens, David, Aliens. I assume you mean the sequel to Alien. Love it. Just see. A lot of people singing the praises of Frank Gorshin. Mr. Lynn says, Z, I have some of those collections. There are 5 to 10 discs, yes. They really crammed them on. Neutron John says it's crazy that Toho had copyrights on the audio and not the visual on the Godzilla versus Megalon. Yeah, isn't that what happened to MST3K? That's why they can't show anymore, because they didn't have the rights to the audio tracks, so they had to drop it. There's some story in there. I will tell you, Godzilla versus Megalon. The guy who played the Emperor of Zootopia, His name was Robert Dunham. He was living like the next town over from me in retirement when he passed on. James Dye says the die is cast. Superplex compression and the fact that the resolution is so low. They're old movies, so yeah, they don't care if they're not crisp quality, and some of them are as grainy as you'd see on TV. Holy cow! Look who's here, Mike and Kathy. Has anyone seen the Dark Star? So weird. I think it's a Cameron movie. First of all, Mike and Kathy, so glad you could make it. It's always, I remember you guys, the last time you showed up, we were literally, not figuratively, literally just wrapping up. It's it's only 9 o'clock now. So we have a solid half hour and change to go at least. But yeah, that was actually, Dark Star is actually David Carpenter's, David Carpenter, John Carpenter's student film. And I absolutely love it. Um, and People actually wanted to see retrospect on it. I think Tug is going to be doing a retrospect on it actually coming up soon. But anyway, welcome to the party. Ziplik says aliens fit 50 movies in a DVD. Crazy. Horseman says I enjoy watching a lot of the old 30s and 40s and 50s black and white classic horror and crime film like The Lady Killers. One of my favorite films of all, and I like a lot of films from that time period, but one of my favorite films actually is Things to Come. BBC British film, Corda, I want to say, and it is the alpha patient of the post-apocalyptic subgenre. Not only is it itself a post-apocalyptic film, but one segment in it is sort of the precursor to the zombie subgenre. So, yeah, I guess you could say I love 30s and 40s films as well. Well, Casablanca is possibly my favorite film of all time, and the 50s had some great stuff too. So yes, I'm when I say vintage, I mean vintage. The Foundation says time for bed for me. Great live thrash. Until next time, everyone. Hey, take care of yourself, lad. Be good, be safe, be careful. We're looking forward to seeing you very soon. I know it's for crying out loud. It's got to be 2 in the morning here, and well, anyway, thanks for staying up with us. Take care. Garrett Garber says Hatton. Ever since I got this disappearing act, ever since I got this, oh, if it kills me, I'm gonna. Ah, here it is. Phone. I've got plenty of old movies on here. Horseman says, "What a great channel! This is brilliant, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you so much. Again, please subscribe. I'm going to be doing another live chat this coming Thursday, but also you might like some of my retro posts. I talk a lot about vintage sci-fi and horror movies and books, but I have some good comedy stuff you might like as well. Please check us out. But I'm so glad you're enjoying Horseman. Glad you enjoyed the party. Uh, a lot of people say good night to the Foundation. Take care, Mr. Foundation. Horseman says, I collect something you probably find boring, so won't even mention my collection. Well, now you have to tell us what you collect. You can't tell us, you're not going to tell us what you collect because we'd be bored with it. So give us a hint. Um, Keith E says, Horseman, when Emily shows of things will change drastically. Don't let Keith fool you. Everybody, we're crazy about Emily. Emily is absolutely wonderful. She's one of our regulars. She didn't make it tonight, apparently, but it's funny. She likes to keep people on their toes. It's a running joke. Uh, yes, a lot of people want to know what Horseman's collection is. You have us intrigued, as Mr. Zuplik says. Gary Carpenter says, I found the Dark Starkers, the cartoon show. That's not ringing a bell. Dark Stalkers, not familiar with it. Mike and Kathy says, first two Alien and Aliens are great. Yes, they certainly were. Neutron John says, well, he said something and then he disappeared. Ah, I like the grainy classic films like those popping sound from the classic records. Yeah, it gives it an atmosphere, doesn't it? Horseman says, Hungry Jerk, I collect boxing memorabilia. I have a lot to do with the world of boxing, and I've been known to like only fools and horses. Boxing is actually very cool, and boxing memorabilia, I'm sure it could be quite interesting. If you did a post on that, I'm sure a lot of us would like it. Oh, and one of my favorite trivia questions of all time: which sport, professional sport, has had the most films made about it over the course of film history? And you already know the answer because I've already led with it. Boxing. There are a ton of films about boxing going back to the silent era. So no, boxing stuff is cool. Uh, the book says, "What is it with things to come? Guys in togas in the future. Who thought that this would be a thing in the 21st century?" It's the segment before that. Bear in mind, there's two parts to things to come. And the first part, where the world goes to crap, that's the more entertaining of the two segments. The second portion is more of a social commentary, which I must confess is less interesting than the first part. What are people? Oh, Mr. Lynn says Casablanca ranks with The Godfather for me. Great film, isn't it? Gary Cameron says, I don't like zombie movies from the 70s. Love him or hate him. Free country. Mike Kelly says, I've said this before. Favorite movie, original Day the Earth Stood Still. Wasn't Michael Rennie ill during that? Nothing. Daryl Johnson says 2:05 in London. Well, it's London after midnight then, isn't it? Ooh, and I just jumped again. Don't worry, I'll catch up. Here we are. Almost. Tom says Dawn of the Dead, one of the best movies of the 70s. Concur. Gary Cameron says Mr. Led Casablanca is a great movie, but I love The Wizard of Oz. One of the first major color films. John Collins in the house. Hi, people. John, I knew you'd make it. Never lost faith in you. So glad you got here. Um, Horseman says Ricky has been known to go on random YouTube channels in the early hours of the morning. Really? Okie doke. John Collins says, sorry I'm late. No worries, no worries. You got a full plate, man. Just glad you got here. Zerbook says, favorite sci fi movie, John. Yeah, we're talking about vintage sci fi and movies and TVs of the 70s and 80s. Zubik says, well, we have to start with Rocky. As far as actually, there were plenty of boxing movies before Rocky. Oh, Tom says, people on the East Coast, anybody remember Candlepin? My grandfather used to love Candlepin bowling. That and Bowling for Dollars. He loved Bowling for Dollars. Michelin says, love Raging Bull. Horseman says, anybody ever heard of Ricky Hatton? He was a terrible boxer, but didn't do bad. Loves the old films and TV. There's a bell ringing in my head, but I can't quite place. I might be thinking of somebody else. Ricky Hatton. There's a bell. I don't know. Might be the tinnitus. Mike Gethy says sometimes movies get the future right. You tell me about it. John Collins says Star Wars or Demolition Man, running the gambit there. Tom says Super, I'm staying indoors. I like being outside too. Ziplik says me 2001. That was 60s, but we will accept it. James Dye says John Collins Starman, if for no other reason than Karen Allen was in it. That was 80s. Yeah, that was 80s. Neutron John says, I collected comics for a while, got over 3,000. About people around me said I was foolish, found out a bunch of them is worth a couple hundred each. Not, but not a good stack. Keithy says, cancel pins and duck pins, and Trash is going to not know what I'm talking about. Well, candle pins and duck pins or bowling pins. And I prefer duck pins to candle pins. But I was a terrible bowler even before my knee went out. Mike and Kathy said just watched 2001 again. The book says, was Ricky Hatton an actor after Buck? I'm a moron. I was thinking of Rondo Hatton. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Rondo Hatton was an actor from the 30s. And that just bumped into my head. So no, I'm not familiar with Ricky Hatton. But that's Gary Garman says, Mr. Led, no, and I don't like Pink Floyd. Oh, I see. I have to read the question. He said first. This one says, Gary, do you watch it while playing Pink Floyd? No, I don't like Pink Floyd, but I'm up. No, I'm with you. Sometimes you have to read these things in order. James Guy says, Tom, well, she is nice as she seems. I'm assuming he means Karen Allen. Gary Gummer says, Max Baer was a boxer. Mr. Lynn's laughing at my tinnitus joke. You laugh. Me and William Shatner. Oh, Tom says she was very nice. That's excellent. Houseman says, no super LOL. I know, look, after a stable of boxers and my son Campbell has turned professional. Pleased to meet you, Superplex. Oh, that's very nice. Tom says Max's dad was a boxer. I just heard that somewhere. Mike Kathy says not checking dates, just throwing movies I like out. Oh, that's okay. Just I think someone said specifically to John 70s. But we could talk. We can talk about any period we want. That's the great thing about this channel. I don't stand on convention. Convention never stood on me. I also, when I hear a movie, I try to remember the decade it's from, just for the zeitgeist. But yeah, no. Feel free to talk about whatever ones you like to talk about. John H says, I remember Candlepin bowling, at least from Boston TV Guide listings. I don't remember much about the actual seeing it played. Yeah, but my grandfather liked it, so we used to like watch it during dinner when I was over at their house. Sublik says, pleased to meet you, Horseman. Gary Cameron says, HJ, he was the senior. Junior was on the Beverly Hillbillies. Horseman says, aha, the penny has dropped. LOL, hello. Zuplik says Max Baer was the heavyweight champion. Yeah, I'd heard that somewhere. Mr. Lynn says, I found a $6 million man comic on the side of the road about 30 some odd years ago. Wonder if it's valuable. If it's in good condition, it might be. Although a lot of them, the problem with comics, particularly from the 90s on, you see, when we were kids, we used to like rip the covers off and pin them to the wall as posters. We'd throw them under the bed. We'd trade them with our friends. They get dog-eared. You'd write silly things in there with magic marker. We didn't keep them in mint condition. So one of the things we found in the late 70s and early 80s is mid comic books, ones that hadn't been destroyed, were worth a lot of money. So what teenagers and a little bit older than me started doing is buying them and keeping them in pristine condition. Well, because we envisioned them being worth money if they were in mint condition. Well, that's great. But the problem is, if there's a bunch of them available, they never go up in value. And that's what happened in the comic book market. People were spending, there were stories of guys in suits walking into comic book stores with briefcases and just filling their briefcase with these comics because they think they're going to be worth money down the road. They're buying them, but, buying dozens of them. And when there's dozens or hundreds of thousands available, they never become rare. I was actually a comic speculator for a while, where was buying comics that I didn't think people were going to hang on to. That doesn't really work either. But some of the vintage comics I have are actually worth less money now than they were 30 years ago. So it's a real hit or miss business. Stan Lee at one point had to declare bankruptcy. I could do a whole show on that, but I'm not really qualified. A lot of people are saying, depending on what shape it's in, Keithy says, hi, sitting here waiting for a very intense question from John Collins. I haven't heard one. Year X player. I haven't heard one yet. Voice to high tech Siri X. I'm sure he'll think of one soon. Mike Kelly says, "How about Fahrenheit 451 movie?" I love that movie. Actually, it's a great movie. I think I like the book better, but I usually do. The book says 90s comics and beyond lost a lot of value. They certainly did. John Collins, Bob, have you heard of a YouTube channel and a YouTuber named Steve Shives? His channel is dynamic. He mostly focuses on the real world implications of Star Trek and social consciousness of day to day. I haven't, but maybe we could all check him out. Why not? Why not? Oh, Miss Wood says, yes, perfect shape. It was actually stuck in some hedges. I'm guessing it blew out of a car. And it's still in good condition? Well, that's good. Garrett Gabriel says, Z, most of them are getting good, but not now. Horseman says, host, what is your all time favorite TV show and film? That's an excellent question. All time, all time. Probably my all time favorite TV show might just be Hill Street Blues. I love Hill Street Blues. Although, if you want to do something a little more concurrent, I'd have to go with Breaking Bad. But all time, although, all right, I got one more I'm going to throw out there: The Fugitive. I love The Fugitive, and it was such an influential show. It really it might just serve as my number one TV show of all time. As far as my favorite film goes, um, Casablanca. I really want to say, although Doctor Zhivago really, really, really tugs at the old heartstrings. You know what? I'm gonna have to go with Doctor Zhivago. Although Casablanca is a very, very close second. As far as science fiction goes, since we've been talking about science fiction all night, favorite science fiction TV series would of all time would have to be Star Trek. And a favorite science fiction film? Good question. You know what? I'm going to go with the original 1993 Jurassic Park. That would have to be my favorite science fiction film. Although there's a lot fighting for that top slot. Tom says, "Did you I did that. Oh, I did that with my comic books. Throw them to hedges." Gary Cameron says, I had lost most of mine to a fire. Oh, that's a heartbreaker. Ziplik says, you got your wish, Keith Ebe. Horseman Hatton says, look up Ricky Hatton on YouTube host. I will. I promise I will look up Ricky Hatton. Because now that I know I don't know who it is, I have to find out who it is now, don't I? And Ziplik says, real shame. Bobby Renee says, host. My brother has a fake Cerberus #1. Well, if it's fake, it's not worth anything. But I have a couple of Cerebuses. I would say Cerebuses myself. I even have a crossover. There's a Cerebus Ninja Turtles crossover, which was really slick. Gary Cameron says it depends on what comics are still good. Neutron John says modern comics are dead for me, especially now that the Joker is pregnant. Yeah, don't. I can see how that would. Yeah, I can see how that would. Yeah. Tom says, I'll do that, Ricky. Daily Dan is giving us a link to his that Fat Comic Book Kai channel for the comic book fans among us. Check it out. You will love it. I promise you. Mike and Kathy says impossible to pick all time. It is difficult, but I always give it my all time. Try. The old college try. Mr. Lynn says, I'll send you a pic, Thrash. Please do. Please do. Horseman says, look for a little fat guy hungry. Like a laugh and a joke, but loves his old TV and film when relaxing at home. I'm guessing this is our friend Ricky. Zibble says, my all-time favorite TV show is Monty Python. My favorite film is Taxi Driver. Great film, but a little violent, isn't it? Let's see. Oops, I just jumped again. Dilly Jen says, my number one TV show of all time is The Night Stalkers with Darren McGavin. I love the movie and the film. Tom says favorite movie, The Wanderers, about an Italian gang in New York in the '60s. I've seen that film probably a dozen times. Ken Wall is the hero, I believe, and the really really big guy who plays Meat from Porky's is in it too, I believe. Great film. Mike Kelly says Star Trek definitely saw the future. They sure did. Daryl Johnson, leave the kid alone. He got it. James Dye says my favorite sci-fi movie is probably Forbidden Planet. Amazing film. Amazing film. Elizabeth says it's Horseman Hatton. Oh, I know, but I simplified by saying either Horseman or Hatton. Horseman Hatton. We got it. We got it. This one says which Monty Python film? Z. I love the Holy Grail. Holy Grail is great. Life of Brian is good too, but Holy Grail is really is good. Neutron John says the guy I get my comics from was an extra in The Wanderers. No kidding. That is like really cool. Gary Garber says it's tough to mention what is your favorite genres. Not necessarily. Horseman Hatton says Superplexity Pawns. Apparently he thought I missed your name somehow. Well, you know who I was talking to. Tom Hungry Jerk says, anybody watch Freaks and Geeks? That one kind of, I was working nights at the time and I kind of missed that one. Let's just see. John Collins says, Bob, is Keith E saying that he enjoys my questions or that they're too long and deliberate? And or what questions would you like me to ask? I'm opening to any questions. I'm a rather talkative individual. Oh no, I don't think he was criticizing. I think he was just saying that you would ask the question that he was waiting for you to ask. Usually, you have a theme topic, or I've noticed this, John, where sometimes like you have like an opening question, and then we'll have follow up discussions from there. So I think he was just stating, based on what I'm interpreting, that you were getting the ball rolling, as it were. I'm just going to skip down here. My other brother Daryl said favorite movie Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein is my favorite comedy of all time. It certainly is. And I'm just looking down. Keithy says, "I look forward to your question." Oh, Johnny's answering you. I look forward to your questions, and then I am totally impressed. You can get voice to text to work so well. Oh, that's another issue he has. I wasn't even thinking that. He's had a nightmare with voice texts. I've actually gotten pretty good at interpreting what his texts mean, although I mess up quite a bit. But I've gotten better than I was. But thank you for clearing that up, Keith. Horseman says the original Mad Max films with Mel Gibson. Yes, I absolutely adore those, particularly the first two, though three is certainly not without merit. Mike Kelly says Colossus the Forbidden Project ending was disturbing. It really was. That movie blew me away when I read it. It was one of the films that was the basis for Terminator, if I remember correctly. Though I could do a whole show on that. Neutron John says, I like Doctor Who, especially the guy with the scarf, Tom Baker. Tom Baker is my absolute favorite doctor. In fact, I'm still kicking myself. Poor Ken Wilkinson. There was something about Tom Baker that came up, and I was going to ask him about it, and I can't think of it. And then I never got back to it because I still can't think of it. It'll probably occur to me tonight, 2 in the morning. I'll be like, don't worry, I'll get back to him, I promise. Anyway, a lot of people like Blazing Saddles. Ziplik says, I love the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and the Rocky and Bullwinkle and their other show, George of the Jungle. And here's a little, speaking of Hans Conried, there was one that with Hoppity Hip Hop, the frog. He played Uncle Wolf or Uncle Coyote or whatever. Oh, and Tracy is saying good night, Bob. Tracy, good night to you. I was going to say you've actually stayed up really past your bedtime. And actually, folks, while we're on a subject, we're coming up on the hour and a half mark. And much as I hate to pull the plug on a good thing, I think it's about time that we kind of wrap things up here. I want to thank you guys so much for coming to the surprise live chat. I did promise I get the word out earlier, so hopefully not everyone here was surprised. I want to thank all of my veterans for coming tonight. By the way, it's so nice of you guys to make it tonight. Um, Mr. Horseman, and any other noobs that we've seen tonight. By the way, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're doing another show this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everyone is welcome. I haven't quite nailed down what the topic is, but it'll probably be something vintage, retro, science fiction, horror related, TV, film, a specialty. And other than that, I just want to say thanks each and every one of you for making it here. You guys are really what make this channel. Like I said, if you didn't catch it before, I had 1,300 plus comments from the last show I did. And that one was a surprise. A lot of you didn't even make it. But anyway, I want you all to be good, be safe, be careful. I'll be seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.